Hi everyone. Today we have Amina from UK. I will talk about her story, accessibility. She's an accessibility advocate. But before doing that, we will talk a little bit about her social media, content creation. She also has a YouTube channel. Please subscribe to her YouTube channel in the link in the description. How are you, Amina?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
I'm fine, thanks. It's 9 p.m. here, and I was looking forward for this interview with you. I'm really happy to have you here. And to be honest, we really don't know a lot of each other, so this is why we are here instead of just chatting for months.
Yeah.
Yeah. So can you say something about yourself? Introduce please yourself. Let's talk a little bit about you. And remember, this is not just a one-way interview. If you want to make a question, I'm here also for you. Thank you.
So my name is Amina. I'm from the UK. I'm a content creator, so I also make YouTube videos, and I'm an accessibility advocate, and I'm also a software engineer by day.
Yeah.
So that's a bit about me. And yeah, I think we connected on Twitter
Yeah.
because I don't know how I came across it too. I think someone was recommending you or the other way around.
I
I
don't
just
know.
remember getting tagged in something.
No, I don't know. To be honest, Twitter is a mess. Sometimes
I know.
you can't. Sometimes you can't handle all the notifications. But here we are, and I'm
Yeah.
happy. I'm sure that I asked you to come here after I've seen your videos.
Yeah.
So because they are, I like that they are all same style. So I like that. I wish I would like to reach that point. So yeah, first of all, Amina, how did you become a developer? What really inspired you? I like to start with this to just know you a little bit more, and then we will get into more topics. Yeah.
Okay. So before I got into the tech industry, I was actually in the film industry.
Oh wow.
So I don't actually have I don't have a university degree, and I didn't study computer science or anything like that. I was initially in film and TV, so I used to do the marketing and PR sides. Yeah, I got to work on quite a few TV shows. And then I was initially interested in UX and UI design. That's what I initially wanted to get into. But then through that, I started picking up coding, and I wanted to learn how to code. So I would watch YouTube videos, I would watch tutorials, and then I was recommended to apply for boot camps. But a lot of boot camps are very expensive, so I couldn't afford to sign up. And then one day on Twitter, someone sent me a link to a boot camp that was being run by a platform called Code First Girls. They're based in the UK, and they help a lot of women and girls to learn how to code. So they did like a 4-month boot camp. And then through that, I learned how to code, and then I got my first role as a software engineer. So it was very quick once I made the decision, and that's how I got into tech. But I don't actually have a traditional background. People think that you have to be a certain way to learn how to code or to be a software engineer, and it's like, no, there's so many paths to get there, and that's how I got in.
But I had a lot of people here, and all of us, so we have our own story. I've been a volleyball coach for 20 years, so
wow.
It's strange. Sometimes it's strange that I like this that I got so many guests here saying that my story is strange. I'm not that kind of stereotype. So we had some different stories. I had an opera singer, makeup artist.
Wow.
Really strange story, but this is yours. I didn't know this, and I can say that, for example, your communication skill is really great because it really attracted me. And this is why I've asked you to come here. So maybe now I know why you made practice. And now I know your secret.
Yeah. I think I've always liked to be. I mean, at school, I was very academic. So, I have really good grades and everything. So I never struggled at school. I wasn't creative or academic. I was both. But I think I've always liked to be creative anyway. I've always liked writing. I've liked poetry. At school, I remember when I was doing my A-levels, and at that point you're 16, you need to make pocket money so you can do things with your friends. All my friends would work in retail, and for me, I just couldn't do it. So I would tutor kids, and I would also, back in the day when you had Movie Maker, the throwback. Yeah, I would help people edit stuff. So I used to do things like that for fun. I've always liked being creative, but because I grew up and I was always told, like, get an education, study, get your good grades.
No.
I was doing that. I was also very sporty. I was in a girls' football team.
Perfect.
Used to play netball. So I was
Perfect.
everywhere. I was doing so much. And
Perfect.
yeah, I think I've
I
always
like
been creative. And then when I finished my A-levels, that's when you decide whether you want to go to university, what you want to study. So I didn't know if I wanted to go into the sciences or if I wanted to do humanities subjects like history or sociology.
Right.
So I thought, okay, let me not make a decision and pay for uni if I don't know what I want to study. Let me explore the other aspects of what I like. And a lot of it was creative, a lot of it was media. So yeah, I just went in that way.
Nice.
And yeah, I started doing digital marketing. I was making videos for online publications on Facebook back in the day. And then after that, I just fell into the film industry. Literally, I bumped into someone. She was like, oh, what do you do? We were just at some random event in London. And then, yeah, she was like, oh, do you want to come on set with me? Or do you want to come and meet this person? And that's literally how I literally fell into the industry. It was literally by accident that I worked in film.
Wow.
So yeah, I've always been like that.
Like I said, that you're really using your communication skills everywhere. And for example, it's interesting because today I made a Twitter space about communication. Maybe it would have been great to have you on board. And I'm sure that communication is really a great skill. I think maybe it's the most important skill for a developer. What do you can say about this?
I think that's just generally in the professional world. I remember when I was working at this production company and someone told me something that I still carry today. And they always said, before anyone can remember what you can do, they remember your personality. So because when I worked in the film industry, I was the youngest. I was always one of the few women, one of the few Black people. I stood out immediately whenever I go to meetings or anything. And I was like 18 when I got my first film job. So I'm here, I have no degree. I have to prove myself even more than everyone else. Wow. And that was one of the things that someone told me, like, before people can remember what you can do, they'll remember who you are and what you stand for, your personality. So I just got comfortable just being me. And then people would remember me like, oh yeah, that's the girl with the headscarf. What's her name again? Oh yeah, what's her job again? And then all of a sudden I found myself getting gigs and getting projects. And nice. I think I've kept that skill like in every industry I've been in so far. And it actually works really well in tech because when I'm doing stuff at work, if I can explain it to my colleagues, that means I understand it. And if I don't, that means I need to learn it again. And that also filtered when I started a YouTube channel. If people that don't know me are watching my videos and they can understand and they're learning from my content, that means I'm communicating it. So I think communication is one of those skills where it's something that you can learn, but you really have to prioritize it. And it can literally help you in any job that you do. It doesn't matter what it is. It's so, so powerful. So, yeah.
Perfect. So really perfect timing because I've talked about communication already for a couple of hours. I think that I don't know why, but in development, I think we lack some of communication. Yeah, I'm also of course I'm saying this in general. So maybe we should improve this. We should have more people like you in tech. I think so. Yeah, thank you for sharing this with us because I think that this is very important. This is also why I'm doing this kind of interviews, just to show that we are not just people like that coding in an angle in a dark room, but we are also people. We need to improve our human skills, the communication between us, create teamwork, talk about the problems. So this is really important. Thank you so much, Amina. What about accessibility? Because as I've seen some of your videos, or maybe all of them, you have one person doing the British Sign Language. I don't know if I've spelled that correctly. So can we talk about this? Because maybe this is just one thing that now I've noticed. But what can we say about this subject? Because I think this is really important. Thank you.
So with accessibility, I came across web accessibility first. So like screen readers, color contrast, etc. When I was doing my coding bootcamp, there was one small module in the course. And in my head, I was like, oh, okay, so this is how you would, improve your code base to make it more accessible. label certain things. That's when I was first exposed to accessibility. But so I sort of put that in the back of my mind. I thought, okay, this is interesting. I'm going to hold on to this and come back to it later. And then I started my role as a software engineer. I was doing my job and everything. And then last year, the pandemic hit, and, you know, we're all working from home, and people are pushing me to start a channel. They're like, you're good on camera. Just, you know, start a channel. We want it. And so I started it because I had a lot more time now. And so initially, I just used to caption my videos because for me, I still do watch a lot of films with captions. I like to watch videos with captions anyway. Even if I don't need it, I prefer it that way. So in my head, I thought, well, you know, I come from an industry where, you know, we're always watching stuff with captions. I used to work on a lot of international films. I'm used to that format when I'm watching stuff. So I thought, let me just put that in my YouTube videos. So initially I was doing closed captions, and I was just using some random software on my iPhone, and people really liked it. And I accidentally tapped into the deaf audience on Twitter. They're like, oh my gosh, you're the first like big platform on Twitter that's actually using closed captions. Thank you so much. And I was like, oh my gosh, yes, accessibility. And then eventually I was like, okay, what if I went a step further and I decided to incorporate British Sign Language? I just wanted to see it as an experiment. Could I do that? So I went and searched on YouTube, like other YouTubers that had British Sign Language. There wasn't a lot. A lot of it is just educational content by charities whenever I do search up sign language in the UK, or it's from other deaf YouTubers who are signing themselves because that's how they communicate. So I thought, okay, what would happen if I actually mixed the two together? So I went on Twitter, I did a call. I was like, hey, is there any deaf person out there that speaks British Sign Language that's comfortable on camera? I remember I saved up some of my pocket money, and, you know, I put it to the side just so I have a budget ready. And then 3 months later, around last year, August, I met someone. He was the first person to be in a video within that format. And I remember when it came out and everyone was like, what is going on? What is this? We've never seen this format in a long time. I found all these new Twitter people following my account. They're like, oh my gosh, thank you so much. This is so helpful.
Great.
Captions and British Sign Language. You know, I'm going to share this with my siblings. I'm going to share this with my parents. I was like, whoa, okay. Obviously, it wasn't perfect yet. I got a lot of good feedback as well. And then eventually I decided I want to branch out even more. I found my second translator, and she joined my team. And since then, it's just been constant feedback. And yeah, it's crazy. Like, it just sort of blew up. And I thought, okay, if I'm going to grow my channel, I might as well use this opportunity as my creative playground to incorporate accessibility. And yeah, I just connected with an amazing online community. I get feedback all the time. I get people asking me to tweak things. Initially, it was just for my deaf audience, but then I found that my videos are actually accessible for some of my blind subscribers and some of my subscribers with low vision, because I also found that because of the way I dress, there's a lot of color contrast. So I was accidentally making videos that were good for people that had low vision, for example. So they were like, yeah, have these colors in your videos, do this, do that. So what started off was just, you know, the basic, for me anyway, it was basic, became this one big thing where it's like, okay, actually, if I can set the standard for what accessibility is like in YouTube videos, then people can do so. And the crazy part is I do all of this on my iPhone. From start to finish, it's all happening on my iPhone. So I thought, you know what, I can do it, so I'm going to do it. So that's how it started.
Well, that's great. And also, I like how you smile, how you express yourself. So also, this also is important. I think that it's really important. Also, what you say, that it's like a format. So it's not just maybe it started like an experiment, but now it's really a format. Yeah. So people are really looking for your videos like that. Thank you for doing this, because of course it requires, I always say that it requires a lot of effort to create some video, but in this case you also need to add some effort. But I think that also the feedback that you get from the people, it's great. So what you are doing, it's really valuable for someone. So yeah, it's
Yeah,
really
definitely. I have like little testers now, technically. In the development world, they'll be my testers. So when I film a video, first, obviously, I have to subtitle it, and then I will send it to like a few of my Twitter friends who are deaf. Be like, hey, what do you think of this? Is it clear enough for you? And then I would send it to some of my subscribers who are blind, because I want to know what the sound quality is like, because their experience is purely audio because they can't see my videos. And then I would have some of my subscribers who have low vision and some who process colors differently. So you'll notice in my recent videos, there's a lot of bold, bright colors because there's certain colors that need to contrast. So yeah, I just test it's like literally my YouTube channel is like an experiment, a creative playground. And I think what started off as just something I do as a hobby is now like, I actually want to get better at accessibility, not just as a content creator, but also as a developer, because that's when I started really reading into like the accessibility guidelines. So things like Web Content Accessibility Guidelines 2.1, which is the latest documentation for that. I started like trying to understand how screen readers work, how browser APIs work when it comes to how people who use screen readers use the web. It just became like one domino effect. And I was like, you know what? As a software engineer, if I'm going to talk about my code being usable and efficient, accessibility should be part of that, especially when you're talking about like the development cycle. If you're working with UX designers, if you're working with project managers and product managers, if you're saying that your code and your product is usable, why is accessibility not part of that? Because if it's supposed to enhance the user experience, accessibility should be part of the user's experience. And a lot of people don't understand that accessibility benefits everyone, because even for someone like me, where I don't necessarily need captions, I actually prefer reading things with captions. There's a lot of tools in our iPhones, for example, that cater to accessibility. So for example, another thing that I really like using, even though I don't need it, is the speech to text feature. I need that because, you know, being someone who always has loads of ideas, I like to just splurge it out, and sometimes I need to say it out and then see it on text. We don't realize how much accessibility is by design. And so when there's a lack of accessibility, that is also by design. And yeah, my YouTube channel has actually helped me enhance my skills as a coder, because now I'm thinking like, okay, when I'm coding, what sort of tags do I need to be mindful of? How am I labeling certain things? And that's when I got introduced to another format called ARIA text, which is how you would label semantic HTML. So it's like one big roller coaster, which just started out as an experiment. And that's how I fell into accessibility.
Great, thank you. I watched some of your videos. Maybe I don't know which one is your most recent one, but can you talk about maybe your last video? I don't know when have you published the last one and what was about?
Yeah.
I can't remember now. Sorry.
It's okay. My last one was about asthma, so it was a bit more health focused. And I also did a review for a platform that I use, which is similar to Patreon. So this one is about health, because there was a conversation happening online about asthma and how it affects people that grew up in London, which is where I grew up. And I moved out of London, and then I sort of shared my experience on air quality, the importance of it, etc. So that was my latest non-tech video. I think in terms of like the tech career aspect, I think the last video I did was about imposter syndrome, because that's something that we all go through in any industry.
We can talk about this if you want.
Yeah.
We can talk hours about that, I think.
Yeah. So I sort of touched on that because I feel like my opinion on imposter syndrome has changed a little bit based on my experience. I realized that, especially in the tech industry, my relationship with imposter syndrome is dependent on the environment I'm in. So if I'm working in a team where it's supportive, there's collaboration, I'm bouncing ideas off you and vice versa, and I'm learning from you, I don't feel as much imposter syndrome, because you're not making me uncomfortable. You're not making me feel like, oh, I don't belong. But then I've also been in situations within the tech scene where it's like, oh, what is she doing here kind of thing. And then that rubs off on you and you're like, wait, am I qualified enough? Am I not? So yeah, I sort of just addressed imposter syndrome and how I've navigated it and what I think about it. So those are my latest videos.
Perfect. Thank you. Can I ask you a favor? What can we say to some people? Maybe they are watching or listening this video now about imposter syndrome. So how can they fight this or work on this? Because sometimes it's hard also to choose our environment. We don't know before going. For example, I also thought about this, that when we make interviews, we should make questions about the environment, but sometimes it's impossible. We need to test this at least a couple of days to understand really how the working environment is. So if you are, for example, as you said, maybe you are in the wrong environment, maybe you don't feel comfortable, because this, of course, doesn't help. If you are, and we already have a lot of problems about bugs, development, imposter syndrome, but of course the environment, it's important also. So what can we say to them?
I think with imposter syndrome, sometimes it's rooted in anxiety, and sometimes you just feel a bit overwhelmed because there's so many things you're telling yourself you don't know that you forget how many things you do know. So what I like to do is, you can either do it on your iPhone, on your notes, or just have a folder somewhere. Every time I achieve something, I write it down, because A, it helps when you're updating your CV. So career-wise, it's great. B, sometimes you forget how much you actually do know, and you just need something to look back on. So that's something that someone recommended me to do. And since then, it's like, okay, for everything that I don't know, there's things I do know. And one day, that thing I don't know will be on my list of things I do know. So I sort of go through that, because the tech industry is so big. Like, even to this day, I just feel like there's so much to learn. It just does not stop. So I just like to mark it bit by bit, like, oh yeah, I achieved this. Oh yeah, I learned this today. And I just have it there just in case, like, there's times where I feel like I don't know anything, I'm panicking, I have something to look at. So that's how I like to deal with it. And in terms of interview questions, I'm currently going through job interviews at the moment. So it's been quite an interesting experience. But in terms of trying to gauge the environment, that's something that's high on my list, because for me, if I'm not going to thrive in that environment, or I'm not going to get along with people, it's not going to work for me personally. I need to be able to work in a team I can collaborate with. So one of the things I like to ask is, how do you guys manage deadlines? What does, a general day-to-day look like for me? What would it be for me? I like to understand how managers work, because I believe that managers can literally make or break your job. And I think that gives you a good idea of what the environment's like, because it's the manager's job to drive the team at the same time, to make sure everyone's collaborating, to make sure everyone's delivering in each sprint and all that stuff. So I like to ask, like, what does working towards a deadline look in this team? How do you manage deadlines? How do you manage feedback? That's another thing that I would highly recommend. How do you like to collect feedback? Is there room to adapt to that? That sort of gives me an idea of what the environment is like. If I'm going to be in an environment that's just lots of pressure, not too much collaboration, or if it's going to be an environment where I get to communicate. Because I think imposter syndrome comes from when you don't know what someone's thinking. In your head, you're thinking, oh, this person probably thinks I'm stupid because I asked the same question again. When you don't know, that's when those thoughts start coming in and you start feeling like, actually, maybe I don't belong here. So that's my advice personally. That's what's worked for me so far.
Thank you, Amina. Thank you. I also think that it's very, very important, if you take an interview, to also make questions about that. And in my opinion, I say this because I've been an interviewer too. If the interviewer doesn't give you the opportunity to even make a question, this is already a bad sign, in my opinion. Because find a job is not just that you just answer questions, show how you can reverse an array in JavaScript. It's not only about that, because we can learn technical stuff, but it's really important to understand how the environment works. If you have for example, if you have some special needs, of course, in the job, that's the moment when you can ask them, before and not after. After accepting a job. So this is really important, to ask about the environment. And also, let me say this, now I'll check maybe daily your Twitter profile to see that I got that job tweet. I'll be there. I wish you...
it's very close. It's coming. I can feel it.
Oh, really? I wish you really, yeah, from the bottom of my heart, this. I'll check this because I want to see that tweet. Yeah.
Yes, definitely.
Perfect. So, I mean, which are your plans for this year?
I've noticed, like, you know how you see those videos or people that talk about 5-year plans? I don't know, my brain doesn't let me do that. So I like to do things in 6 months.
Exactly.
I feel like 6 months is enough time where if you're consistent, you can see some change, but it's also not too long that it scares you. So for me, for the rest of the year, probably, the 3 aspects I definitely want to focus on is accessibility, technical writing, and design thinking. Those are the 3 main areas that I think they all intertwine very well. And I think it will help me make not just learning things in tech, but also explaining things in tech more inclusive. I think how we use language in this industry is very important. I've noticed that a lot in my videos because I like to break things down and make it approachable. And the funny part, which is actually an accident really, is that when I'm making videos, I'm thinking about my translator. So I have to, the communication is important here because I have to make sure I'm clear. I have to make sure I'm speaking. I don't know how to explain it, but I have to enunciate my words because I also have people that watch my videos. Even when they're reading captions, they're also reading my lips. So that's why I have to speak very clearly. I have to break down information very clearly for my translator. But because for me, if my translator can understand it, then that means a lot more people can also understand it. So initially, it was just to help her or him. But turns out it's helping people that are watching my videos across the world. So I realize now that how I explain things can really either inspire someone to pick up a skill like coding or put them off. So once I noticed that pattern, I thought, okay, I want to incorporate this in technical writing because I think that's another skill that I really want to get good at later this year. And I say design thinking because, like I've said, design accessibility is by design. So I believe, especially as a software engineer, when you design with integrity, accessibility becomes a default. So when accessibility is by design, you can see that in the process rather than just the last minute add-on. So I really want to get good at design in general. I want to understand the foundations of design, the thinking behind design, because I think that will make me a better content creator. And I think it will also make me a better coder and also just a better communicator and writer. So those are the things that I'm focusing on, and accessibility weaves into all of those things because I found my passion basically. Starting my YouTube channel, I see this. I never thought accessibility would be something I'd be this passionate about, but yeah, starting a channel is like, this is where I want to be in tech, and this is what I want to use my technical skills for and my creativity at the same time. So yeah, those are my aims for the rest of the year. So let's see how that goes.
Thank you. Yeah, can we spend a couple of minutes about talking a little bit more about technical writing?
So for my writing, I normally just used to do it in a newsletter. And a lot of my technical writing I was doing in my 9-to-5. So with everything that I used to build in my last job, I used to write a lot of documentation and make sure that it's clear enough to pass on to people. So that is my experience so far with technical writing. It's always within my 9-to-5. But I want to expand that even more because I've also got a resource with a Google Doc with a breakdown of my job. I created a kid-friendly version and parent-friendly version to put all these resources together to help kids get into programming. So those are bits of my experience, but I really want to take it further and be able to do it as something really professional, even if it's on the side. Like I want to be able to explain, like how you explain Docker in your threads. Those threads literally used to save me in my last job because my last job was when I started using Docker.
You made my day.
My nightmare was Docker. And then like you would explain it in such a simple way, and I'm like, oh, okay, is this it?
Thank you.
Like every time
Thank
I'd
you.
run that Docker Compose, I'd get so nervous.
I say this publicly. You can reach me out anytime. Now that
Yeah, I probably will.
now that you say this to me, you can reach
If my
me
next
out.
job uses
anytime.
Docker, you're the first person
Yeah.
I'm running to.
Yeah. For example, I think it's important when we are on socials, because I didn't know that this was my topic, to have one topic when you know something. For example, I think that for you could be accessibility, for me could be Docker. So it's important, as you say, that like people, they look for us for the topic. So for example, in your case, being a human skill, it's even more important. So it's important to be like a point of when someone can refer to you in that way. So thank you so much.
It's crazy. I think you'll be very surprised by how many people see your stuff. Because when I used to struggle with Docker, I'd send it to my friend. Look, this guy did a thread. This is what we need to fix. It's so stressful. But the stuff that you're doing is technically technical writing, you know?
Yeah. I think that if you can try this, but if you tag me in a question, I'll jump there and then make my best to answer. I already do this every day. Sometimes it's hard because I get a lot of notifications already, but this whenever you want.
It's definitely.
Yeah. Perfect. Thank you for your compliments. You made my day. Yeah. Perfect. I mean, thank you so much, because it's really important, to create this connection with other people, because otherwise, just the texting all day long on Twitter, you don't really understand a personality of a person. Do you think that development is for everyone, or just should be for just someone? What do you think about this?
I think at base level, everyone should be aware of development at some level. So in that case, it is for everyone, because I think it's a skill. Like coding is a skill you can teach, the same way you can teach any sort of sport. But in terms of how people excel and thrive, it's not for everyone, and that's okay. Because I feel like some people are just good at certain things that are not in development. That doesn't mean that you shouldn't try, and that doesn't mean that you shouldn't pursue it. I just feel like sometimes with some people, you can tell straight away, like, this is what they want to be focused on and this is what they're good at. Whereas for some people, they might be okay at it, but they might just like something more. I even noticed that with myself. Like, I like to code, but I realized I like to code for fun. I like to code when it's like, building games or anything front end related, rather than full stack 9 to 5. Even though I can do it and I'm good at it, I prefer doing things like within accessibility. I feel like that's where my niche is. That's where I thrive. So development is still for me, but if I could choose, I want to be in accessibility. So I think that would be my answer to it. I don't think in the tech industry there's like set things to do and only certain people can do it, because the way the industry is going, there's a lot of roles that are merging. There's people that are juggling more than one role. You've got like unicorn developers nowadays, where they're balancing UX design and coding at the same time. So a lot of things are merging anyway. So I wouldn't even let that stress you or anything. I think look at the things you're good at and then see what aligns with your passions, because the tech industry is one of those places where you can actually combine both. Like I get to combine my creativity as a content creator while still focusing on accessibility. So people can enjoy my content as a viewer, but then there's also industry leaders and experts that are reaching out to me because I'm technically executing the fundamentals of accessibility according to their guidelines anyway. So the tech industry is one of those places where you don't have to, I tend to go away from those discussions like, oh, can everyone be a developer? Can everyone do this? It's like, whatever you're good at and you enjoy, just do it. This is the industry you can actually make money by thinking like that. So take advantage of it. That's how I see it.
I think you nailed this perfectly. So you should give it a try if you want. Of course, you need. But I think because, for example, I have a lot of friends. Maybe they are interested. They would like to get started with the coding development, but they are a bit scared. I don't know why. So sometimes I don't know. Maybe it's a word when you, especially in the beginning, you find a lot of difficulties. Can you confirm this? especially in the
Yes.
beginning. You don't know where to get started. So
All the
yeah,
time.
yeah.
That's why I created my Google Doc where I mapped out what my old job was like. I was like, this is what the front end looks like, this is the back end. And then I put like a table together of resources, like before you start, do this, because I remember when I first started out, I wanted to try everything. My brain was like going everywhere, and I felt a bit stuck after a while because you see all these videos and everyone's just doing it perfectly. And then when you try it, everything's breaking. So you're like, okay, is my brain broken? Like, why is it not working? So it's a normal feeling. Like, even in my job, like me and Google are like this. I know everyone says it, but Google, Stack Overflow, they're going to be your best friends. Doesn't matter what level you're at. It's actually more surprising if I see people coding majority from scratch rather than just using what's out there already. Like, it's open source for a reason. A good skill is being able to spot what it is that you need to search and find, because if you know what to look for, then you already know it. So don't feel guilty about that. And if you feel scared, that's normal. I feel like coding is a good skill, but it's also quite hard for some people. Like, for example, coding didn't click for me straight away. I actually struggled with it quite a lot, but it's one of those things where you have to practice. It's almost like muscle memory. You have to keep doing it, otherwise you'll just forget it. So if it is hard, don't feel bad about it. It's supposed to be hard. That's why it's so in demand. The key is to keep going. And I think the thing that needs to change is to make it more inclusive, because I feel like people think you have to be a certain way. Like, personality-wise, I don't fit the stereotype of a developer. Like, I'm not quiet. I'm not socially awkward. I'm all bubbly and out there. So I'm still here anyway. So it doesn't matter.
Perfect.
So that's what I would recommend. Like, just take the first step. And if you don't like it, pivot and see what else is out there for you. The tech industry is huge and it's actually growing. So you don't have to worry about that.
Perfect. Thank you, Amina, for your kind words, for a lot of advices, for sharing your stories, for your compliments.
Thank you.
Really.
I'm so happy I finally got to come on here. I watch your videos and it's just so interesting. You have so many different types of people. So when you reached out, I was like, yay, I made it.
Perfect. But jokes aside, thank you so much for being part of this little series. Maybe it's not that little anymore. Yeah.
No.
Yeah. Thank you so much. And please follow her. I'll put some links in the description. Don't lose this opportunity because you'll never regret this. Yeah.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you so much,
Thank you
Amina.
so much.
Yeah. See you next time. Let's keep in touch. Yeah.
All right,
Bye.
definitely.
Bye.